Soichiro Honda, founder of the world's most dominating motorcycle and automobile racing empire, lived a life dedicated to speed. To a world of consumers, the Honda Motor Company is best known as a manufacturer of high-quality personal transportation. In the world of racing, the Honda Motor Company is known for its tenacious will and ability to create cars and motorcycles that win, from the simplest to the most complex. Soichiro Honda will be remembered for his uniquely unorthodox methodology in a business and culture that thrives on traditional methodology. For his uncanny ability to create cutting-edge technology for racing and then adapt it for the mass market. He was an artist in the machine shop and in his later years on canvas. He was a man of strong emotion, a husband, father, and mentor to countless associates who drew inspiration from his pursuit of excellence. He was a living legend in 1991 when he died at the age of 84. Born in 1907, Soichiro Honda was raised in the small village of Komyo, Japan. His father, Gihei, was a blacksmith. His mother, Mika, a farmer's daughter. Komyo was an agricultural center. The primary crop was rice. Horses, bicycles, and the Tenru River were the primary modes of transportation. Soichiro Honda's first experience as a passenger was floating on a wooden raft down the Tenru River, sharing space with lumber. The first time he saw a car, it is said the wide-eyed boy dropped to his knees and rubbed his small hands into the motor oil which had dripped from the car's engine. Soichiro Honda was possessed of a quick and agile mind, but as a boy showed little interest in traditional education. At age 9, Honda traveled with his family to the neighboring town of Hamamatsu and got his first taste of racing when American pilot Art Smith decisively won a contest of speed waged between his simple biplane and the fastest cars in the region. Racing was now in Soichiro Honda's blood. After celebrating his 16th birthday in 1923, Honda will leave his family to pursue his racing dreams in Tokyo. He is told by his father not to return until he is the owner of his own company. In Tokyo, Honda will learn to be a mechanic in an apprenticeship with automotive racing entrepreneur Art Shokai. He will earn $1.25 during his first month in the garage and will not touch a car for the next 12 months. 6 years later, Honda is a skilled mechanic. He returns to Hamamatsu, opening his first garage with the financial backing of Art Shokai in 1929. While the business is small, it belongs to Honda. He is 22 years old, and his father's wish is fulfilled. Honda is now tinkering with engines full-time. With an 8-liter V8 Curtiss-Wright aircraft engine and a Ford chassis, he builds his first racing car. Initially, he is the onboard mechanic. In 1936, at age 29, Honda fulfills a dream and takes the wheel himself. He wins his first race, setting a Japanese average speed record of 75 miles per hour. But Honda's race driving career is suddenly over when he is thrown from his car in a violent crash. While recovering from the accident, Honda's young wife Sachi persuades him to give up race car driving and concentrate on the garage. Honda will now devote himself to business. For the next year, he works diligently in the garage. He maintains the city fire engine as a service to the community. But he is growing weary of simple repair work. In 1937, Honda sells the garage and opens a piston ring manufacturing company. The fledgling business struggles. Discovering that he needs specialized education, at age 31, Honda enrolls in the Hamamatsu Technical Institute. He excels in the study of metallurgy, but refuses to be tested. When told by the headmaster that he won't get a diploma until he completes the required examinations, Honda replies, "A ticket will get you a seat in a movie theater, but a diploma won't get you a job." This attitude set the tone for the future hiring practices of the Honda Motor Company. To this day, at the Honda Motor Company, an applicant's instinct and desire are more important than formal education. Before leaving the Hamamatsu Technical Institute, Soichiro Honda learned how to manufacture excellent piston rings and soon entered a supply contract with one of Japan's most respected and successful companies, Toyota. Success was cut short when American bombing badly damaged his factory at the end of World War II. Soichiro Honda's dreams could have ended in the smoldering rubble of Japanese defeat. In fact, Honda's best dreams were just ahead. World War II ended. The nation of Japan was defeated, but not broken. The spirit for invention and the desire to excel that drew Soichiro Honda to the garage of Art Shokai in 1923 was searching for a new direction in October of 1946, when he formed the Honda Technical Institute to develop small engines. Soichiro Honda was largely self-educated. For him, book knowledge was less important than experience and the will to succeed. In 1948, with $3,200 and dreams of creating his own products for Japan and the world, the Honda Technical Institute was reorganized to become the Honda Motor Company. Japan needed simple, practical transportation. Honda used his limited capital to acquire 500 two-stroke, one-cylinder surplus electrical generator engines and adapted them to bicycles. Then came Honda's first all-original engine, again adapted to bicycles. The new motorbike was dubbed the Bada Bada for its distinctive sound. Gasoline was scarce and expensive. As a service to his customers, Honda mixed gasoline with cheap turpentine oil. The resulting fuel was crude, but good enough to power his engines and growing business. In its first year of operation, the Honda Motor Company had total sales of $55,000. There were no profits. Soichiro Honda was motivated by his strong belief that Japan would only become a world-class industrial power through the development of advanced technology. In 1949, the Honda Motor Company introduced its first simple motorcycle with a reliable 50cc two-stroke engine generating 3 horsepower. During a company celebration, the new motorcycle was casually called a Dream. It was officially christened as the Dream Type D. Honda now had a product but knew nothing of marketing and had no sales organization. Intense competition from 40 other motorcycle companies quickly outclassed the simple Dream Type D. To survive, Honda desperately needed managerial expertise and capital. Coming to the rescue was Takeo Fujisawa, a young entrepreneur who had become wealthy in the steel business during the Sino-Japanese War. Like Soichiro Honda, Takeo Fujisawa was largely self-educated. When the two met in 1949, it was clear to both men that they had the basis for a great partnership. Both wanted to build a successful company. Each had different but vitally important interests. Honda thrived in the development of new technology. Fujisawa would raise the money for that development and oversee the sale of the resulting products. As Japan's economic recovery was accelerating in 1950, Fujisawa was made director of sales for the Honda Motor Company. Headquarters was moved from Hamamatsu to Tokyo. Development commenced on a new 4-stroke engine. In 1951, The Dream Type E doubled the horsepower output of the company's strongest competitor. Sales of the new engine soared. Quickly, government agencies responsible for managing Japan's old guard economy began placing limits on the Honda Motor Company's newfound success. Both Honda and Fujisawa reveled in their outsider status and recognized that superior products in the marketplace were the ultimate solution to the Japanese bureaucracy. While the Honda spirit was firmly in place at the top in the early 1950s, to followers of the old guard, a job at the Honda Motor Company was considered corporate suicide. The earliest executives of the company were all previously rejected by more established corporations. Few believed the company would survive a deep economic downturn following the Korean War, but Fujisawa obtained concessions from labor and suppliers. When conditions improved, Honda was stronger than ever. While the old guard laughed at the Honda Motor Company from their high-rise boardrooms, Soichiro Honda turned his passion for precision to racing. A second-place finish by a 50cc Honda machine at Mount Nagoya in 1953 served notice on the Japanese establishment that the old guard was in for a rough ride. Honda introduced his motorcycles to the world in 1954, boldly traveling to Brazil to compete with the elites of European motorcycle racing. A 13th place finish was disappointing. That spring, Honda announced his intention to compete for the prestigious Tourist Trophy on the Isle of Man in Great Britain. Months later, Soichiro Honda flew to Britain in order to evaluate the competition. He was shocked to discover that his current motorcycles could never compete successfully against Europe's best without enormous improvement. Immediately, Honda Motor Company announced a bold 5-year plan to surpass the best of the European manufacturers on their own turf. In 1955, with motorcycle engine and frame development running in high gear for the Isle of Man, still 4 years away, Honda shocked domestic manufacturers at the All-Japan motorcycle race, finishing 1 through 5 in the 350cc class and at the top of the 500cc class as well. Dreams were becoming reality as Honda's charge into international motorcycle racing had begun.
Geico presents the following.
The true nature of a company is defined by the men who run it. Soichiro Honda, from the time of his youth, was a renegade. In the late 1950s, with its founder firmly at the controls, the Honda Motor Company reflected his singular character. In Japan, there was growing recognition of Honda's voracious appetite and capacity for racing success. The company's heightened public visibility was translating directly to market success in its consumer products division. In 1958, the Honda Motor Company introduced the 50cc Super Cub with an automatic clutch, 3-speed transmission, and an automatic starter. The Super Cub was a huge hit. In a characteristically bold move, Honda built a 30,000 unit per month manufacturing facility to support anticipated demand, creating capacity 10 times greater than total sales in 1957. The gamble paid off handsomely in 1959, with sales of the Super Cub accounting for more than half of the 285,000 units the company sold. Honda had hit the domestic summit and used that success to take his company beyond the shores of Japan. Quietly, 3 Honda executives arrived in Los Angeles and set about the task of creating American Honda. At the time of the Super Cub's introduction, there were 50 motorcycle manufacturers in Japan. 10 years later, in 1968, there were only 4, with Honda standing solidly at number 1, a position the company has never relinquished to this day. In the highly competitive consumer marketplace, some companies exist to sell consumer products and race as a perceived necessity to marketing. At Honda, racing is the lifeblood of the company, and every machine off the production line carries Honda's proud racing pedigree to the street. There is much to appreciate in the success of the Honda Super Cub when viewed together with the racing goals established by Soichiro Honda in the summer of 1954. The development of the Super Cub was a direct result of a relentless technological drive to win the Tourist Trophy competition on the Isle of Man in the summer of 1959. While a Tourist Trophy victory was not achieved in the summer of '59, European eyebrows were raised by Honda's 125cc machines that ran like fine watches. The new engines were parallel twins with shaft-driven overhead cams and boasted 4 valves per cylinder. The Honda team finished 6, 7, and 8 and won the manufacturer's team prize. In 1960, Honda returned with 2 classes of motorcycle. The improved 125cc bike finished 6th, and the all-new 250cc bike placed 4, 5, and 6. Honda was poised to be a major contender for the much-coveted Tourist Trophy. In 1961, Honda's 8-year commitment to winning the Tourist Trophy paid off 10 times over. That year, Honda demolished the world's best competition, placing 1 through 5 in both the 125 and 250cc classes. Mike the Bike Halewood rode to wins in both classes and set record times over the 3/4-mile Snaefell Mountain course. Not to be outdone, fellow Honda rider Tom Phillips rode a 125 to Honda's first World Championship win at the Spanish Grand Prix. Honda roared through the 1961 season, winning 10 of 11 Grand Prix races and claiming International Constructors' Championships, along with World Championship rider titles for Mike Halewood and Tom Phillips. During the next 6 seasons, Honda motorcycles racked up unprecedented success while battling not only other Japanese companies but the European elites as well. In 1966, Honda motorcycles won Grand Prix Constructors' Championships in all 5 competition classes. And the next year, capping off nearly a decade of extraordinary excellence, Mike Halewood won Tourist Trophy Championships on Honda's powerful 250, 350, and 500cc motorcycles. A decade of triumph was driven by Soichiro Honda's unyielding commitment to racing success. From the ground up, Honda motorcycles were created and developed by Honda's brightest, youngest engineers. Soichiro Honda reasoned that inspired young engineers hungry to prove their worth would push the boundaries of known technology and not be limited by conventional thinking. Their efforts rewrote the book on motorcycle design. By the late 1960s, Honda motorcycles were the envy of the world. His company was thriving, but Soichiro Honda was already looking at a new challenge. The future of Honda racing would be built on the 4 wheels of Formula One. At the peak of Honda's dominance of motorcycle racing at the end of 1967, Soichiro Honda was focusing his attention on a new racing goal, a challenge that would test the limits of Honda's engineering expertise. The groundwork for Honda's new direction had begun in 1963 with the introduction of its first 4-wheeled vehicles, small trucks and cars, notably the S360, 500, and 600 series of sports cars. As Honda had become the world's #1 motorcycle manufacturer through extraordinary success on the track, Honda would now race again with cars to showcase a new commitment to speed and performance on 4 wheels. Unlike Honda's conservative steps into motorcycle racing, largely controlled by then modest means and engineering experience, with automobile racing, Honda would enter from a standing start at the sport's highest, most competitive level. Formula One. Lead engineer Tadashi Kume, creator of Honda's 125cc motorcycle racing engine for the Isle of Man, had been overseeing designs for a water-cooled 1.5-liter V12 Formula One racing engine since 1963. Honda's first season of Formula One in 1964 had Californian Ronnie Bucknam behind the wheel. Honda engineers were testing in a competition environment. In 1965, the Honda Formula One team had added a second California driver, Richie Ginther, best known for his partnerships with Ferrari and BRM. That year, Honda got its first win in Formula One at the end of its second full season of competition, when Ginther drove to victory in the Mexican Grand Prix. While racing and developing in Formula One, Honda was competing in Formula Two as well. With Jack Brabham at the wheel, Honda's 1965 Formula Two season was a disappointment. Still, the team persevered through early growing pains. Late in 1965, with new 3-liter Formula One specs, Honda built an all-new engine and chassis, a water-cooled V12 generating 400 horsepower. The engine was among the most powerful of its time. Still, success on the track was elusive. In 1966, fortunes changed as Brabham Honda's Formula 2 team erased all previous disappointments, winning 11 straight races and the Formula 2 championship. On the strength of this and previous achievements, Tadashi Kume would go on to be president of Honda Motors. In 1967, with new driver John Surtees at the controls, Honda's Formula One team broke through with a win at the Italian Grand Prix at Monza. The celebration was short-lived. The bottom fell out of Honda racing the following season. In 1968, John Surtees could manage nothing better than a single second-place finish. Later in 1968, an experimental V8 crashed on a rain-slick track during the French Grand Prix, killing driver Joe Slesher. 1968's lone bright spot for Honda racing occurred at America's world-famous Indianapolis Motor Speedway, when Honda's Formula One-based IndyCar tested at 171 miles per hour. Fast enough, it turned out, for the front row at that year's 500-mile classic. But instead of returning in 1969 as a serious contender, Honda Motor Company made a stunning decision to walk away from all top-level racing. The U.S. auto market was proving to be a considerable challenge for Honda. Although Honda was America's #1 motorcycle, very few car buyers would use that fact in their car buying decisions. Honda needed to reinvent itself as a serious and legitimate automobile company, an effort requiring considerable financial and intellectual energy. Racing would wait for a while. Now Honda would transfer its racing technology gains to improved products for the consumer. Great attention is paid to safety standards, emission controls, and vital fuel consumption. But before American consumers could buy Honda cars, they needed to find them. In the early 1970s, a dealership network had not yet been established. Honda's first S600 imports to the U.S. were seen sitting in the corners of other automakers' dealerships and looked more like toys than real cars. American Honda had to persuade American auto buyers that Honda cars were a quality product and a great value. The first breakthrough came with the development of the clean and efficient CVCC engine. The second came from the Middle East. When America suffered its first oil crisis in 1973, Honda Motors and American Honda were ready with products that consumers demanded to face the new realities of higher fuel prices and suddenly uncertain supply. First came the Honda Civic in 1973. followed by the CVCC in 1975, which evolved into the wildly successful Accord in 1976. The American automobile market hasn't been the same since. With the success of the CVCC engine, a Honda dealer network was growing rapidly across the U.S., selling 43,000 cars in 1974. When planning for 1975, dealers requested 150,000 cars. They got 103,000 and sold them all. The Honda Motor Company, along with American Honda, was reaching the world, with motorcycles and now with cars. Soichiro Honda led his company to greatness with guts, instinct, and a deep belief in the creativity of his thousands of associates. The leaders of the Honda Motor Company are groomed in Soichiro Honda's image. They are action-oriented individuals who, in the face of a challenge, roll up their sleeves and get busy. During the 1970s, the genius of the Honda Motor Company focused on the global automobile market, creating cutting-edge products automobile buyers wanted. Now, as the 1980s approached, the Honda Motor Company made plans for a return to the track. In the late 1960s, the Honda Motor Company abruptly left the international racing scene. During the 1970s, when market conditions made small fuel-efficient cars desirable, Honda and other Japanese manufacturers were ready, with vehicles that made sense for a more fuel-conscious consumer. Now, entering the 1980s, Honda is once again ready to race on four wheels. Re-entry into Formula Racing will begin with Formula 2. Honda has been away from open-wheel racing for a decade, but there are no cobwebs and no shaky start. In 1981, the Formula 2 championship is won by Jeff Lees, driving a 2-liter 4-cam V6 on a Ralt chassis. There is a feeling of optimism at Honda. As the 1984 racing season approaches, an all-new Formula 1 engine is ready. Honda engineers had to choose between a 1.5-liter turbocharged concept or a 3-liter normally aspirated engine. For Honda, with its long history of success in motorcycles, good things had always come in small packages. Honda chose the turbo and adapted it from their already successful Formula 2 engine. The new power plant was installed in Spirit and later Williams Team racing cars. It put out nearly 1,000 horsepower at 12,000 RPM. Results on the track were excellent. Williams driver Keke Rosberg takes the checkered flag at the U.S. Grand Prix of Dallas. This is the first Honda Formula 1 victory in 17 years. But the fun is just beginning. The next 3 years see the Williams-Honda team regularly in the winner's circle. Honda claims the Constructors' Championship in 1986 and again in 1987, along with the Driver's Crown awarded to Nelson Piquet. The 1980s were heady times at Honda. In 1985, Freddie Spencer wins a world championship for Honda on a revolutionary 3-cylinder 500cc machine. Wayne Gardner does it again in 1987. Formula One success continued in 1988 when Honda partnered with McLaren and driver Ayrton Senna. The 1.5-liter turbo in the last year of its Formula One eligibility won another Formula One double championship by taking the checkered flag in 15 out of 16 events. In 5 1/2 seasons, Williams, Lotus, and McLaren chassis, powered by Honda's 1.5-liter turbo, scored 50 Grand Prix victories, 3 constructors, and 2 drivers' championships. As Formula One was preparing for the 1990s, the age of turbos was coming to an end. Honda engineers would now be challenged to compete on unfamiliar ground. The new standard of 3,500cc normally aspirated engines could play into the hands of the more traditional manufacturers. Honda considers a V8 and a V12, but determines that a V10